Alright, what background should we use? Father's Day? There are no Father's Day symbols. Okay, we'll go with Thanksgiving. Let's wrap up a discussion of meeting with the client. We've talked about keep it simple, avoid going into theory, and the use of pictures, which we're going to go into more detail on a different lesson. Know your audience. What do they want? What do they handle? How do they speak? Cultural differences we talked about before. What things can create a wall between you and the client? And no matter how good your statistics are, if this wall is created, you're going to have a hard time helping them or being a good consultant. So, not having clear goals. And I've had projects like this. Here's a bunch of data. Just see what you can figure out. What is it that you're wanting from me? It's because the two of you remember things differently. I said we wanted these goals. Oh, I thought we wanted those goals. This is why when you do a consulting session, you should keep a notebook with you and be taking notes of the things they said. And it's a good idea afterward to shoot them a little email and say, hey, here's the things we looked at. Here's the things I'm going to be working on. Make sure that everybody's on the same page. That'll also help avoid the problem of where they thought you were going to do the write-up, you thought you were just doing the statistics and somebody else would be doing the write-up, or maybe a misunderstanding of how things are being recompensed. We talked about that in a different lesson. Personality differences are a real thing, and the conflict resolution lesson is coming up. It's okay for you to not get along with a certain type of person. You should still be able to be a good statistical consultant and help them despite those, but that can be difficult. Emotions get involved. We're going to talk about how people identify themselves, and if you attack that, there can be some strong emotions, and that can create a wall. And once the wall is created, people are like, look, I was into that, and now I think I'm doing different projects. That can be a big deal. So these are obstacles. We'll talk in a different lesson about how to handle conflict. Be aware of them, and if you see these sorts of things start to build, see what you can do to try to minimize frustration or misunderstanding so that the project can still move forward. Otherwise, you're going to have what's called a type 3 error. That's where you did great work to answer the wrong question. And then everybody's frustrated because you feel like you've done a lot of work and they feel like you're doing the wrong answer. And this is kind of a big deal with our final project because a lot of students, when they write the final project for this class, they'll focus on the statistical analysis and a whole lot about comparing different methods and which one is the best, and this one has the lowest MSE or the best AIC or BIC, and that means this is the best method. And it feels like the client is sitting there saying, yeah, but I wanted to know how to save the bees, or help people be more healthy, or in this case, he's interested in the money. And your job as the statistician is to help the client with the non-statistical question that they're after. Keep in mind that you are going to have to worry about the statistics, but then help answer what they're after. So that's why we have a posting question here. What kinds of things could your final project address? Not so much which statistical method is best, but, how do we predict housing prices or diamond prices, whatever it is. It's possible you don't yet know what your final project is, and that's okay. If you're in that sort of situation, then just post the kinds of questions that maybe you'd like to answer if you found a data set that worked for you. If you're into sports and you don't yet have a sports data set, what makes the best team or what strategies work the best, or give us an idea of the kinds of questions that'd be fun to answer. And you're not stuck with it. It might be later you'll change it and no one's going to remember or care. Here's a pretty common slide. You'll notice it comes out of AMSTAT for consulting courses, and they have these steps. Here we have explain complex materials, stop to give the client a chance to explain. This is the box that we're trying to delve into a little bit. How to get that communication between you and the client flowing. The last video talked a lot about nonverbal communication. It was slightly over 10 minutes. So let's talk just for a second about the weird thing called Zoom, which thanks to the pandemic now, everybody's familiar with it, and it doesn't matter if we're talking Zoom or Skype or FaceTime or whatever else you're into. The background can sometimes be fun. And yeah, I play around with my green screen to give me these funny backgrounds, but when you're doing a job with a client or when you're doing the final presentation in this class, you probably aren't wanting to do a funny background because you don't want it to be distracting from the message. And I don't really care what background you do. Most people do it something in their house or living room or whatever else you feel comfortable. I really recommend that you watch yourself. It'll help you to see the kinds of quirky things that you do, and this is how other people see and perceive you in a Zoom meeting. I watch my videos a lot, and it does help me be better during a Zoom meeting. It bugs me how much my glasses reflect, though. I mean, there's all sorts of things, and let's not even talk about my nose. There's things that if other people tell you, it's really hard to recognize, but when you see yourself, you'll be like, oh, I get it. How is a Zoom meeting going to be different than meeting with someone in person? You're probably going to need more visuals, graphs, and pictures. You'll notice my slides are full of pictures. A report might only have the graphs very specific to the model. A presentation's probably going to have pictures that just help accentuate what it is you're trying to talk about. You might need more checks, ask them how we doing, get that feedback so that you know. Otherwise, it's really hard to know if they're paying attention, following along, because it's weird. People, for the most part, don't stare into the webcam. They're looking at their screen. So you're not getting the same nonverbal feedback, but you're definitely going to need more checks. And it's going to probably take just a little bit longer to go through it because of that need to be checking in with them. So here's our practice. Podcast question, almost as if you're presenting either in Zoom or whatever. You're meeting with a client. Hi, my name is Scott Crawford. Talk about who you are, your background. I have a degree from Texas A&M University. Really enjoy statistics. Into Brandon Sanderson books, and my kids love Minecraft. And right, I mean, I did this. I think it was one of the very first classes we had. It's a pleasure to meet you. It doesn't have to be long, 30 seconds. It's not like time is really a huge stickler at this point, but practice meeting someone online through a webcam thing for the first time, because this is absolutely something that's going to be a normal part of business from now on.